Rest in peace, Keith Flint. I'm going to stop that music right there before I get hit with some lawsuit. But we got ourselves a little bit of The Prodigy. And I didn't pick that song for no reason. It's because this episode, as we will find out later, is brought to you by fire. A lot of fire. Yeah, guys, we're talking today Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, starting from episode 1. Oh my God. Now, Doctor Who ran for an incredible amount of seasons, 26 to be exact, after its premiere in 1963. And we're going to try to go through all of them, which is insane, especially since I'm not the best about keeping up with, my weekly reviews. Although I've been doing pretty good with Star Trek Discovery and The Walking Dead. So if you're interested in any of those two shows, please like and subscribe, and you'll have weekly reviews of those shows definitely, because I'm keeping up with them. And hopefully I'll start a classic Trek review too, starting with the original series and just moving on up, okay? But today it's Doctor Who, which is my favorite. As much as I'm a Trekkie, live long and prosper, Doctor Who is my favorite. I love this show. I don't know why. I don't know how I got into Doctor Who. I just know I did from a very young age. And it's been my love forever. And I got into Doctor Who from the classic series. Tom Baker, PBS used to show a lot of the classic Who stories, and sadly a lot of fans of New Who, I like to call it that, but that's generally what people call the new Doctor Who adventures anyway. I don't think they know classic Doctor Who as well, which is a real shame, because classic Doctor Who is exactly how it says, how it's entitled, classic. There's some really, really great stories and some really, really great episodes. So here we go. We're going to start with An Unearthly Child, which was 4 little serials. So that's something very different about the classic Who stories compared to the new ones, is that they kind of carried on one long story throughout the season. It was a little bit ahead of its time as far as that, right? Because nowadays pretty much every bit of television, including Star Trek Discovery, The Walking Dead, and everything that's on Netflix, everything that's on regular television, basic cable, premium cable, is serialized. And Doctor Who brought this to television. Usually we saw that sometimes in those short films, that you would watch in the theater, like those old Buck Rogers and what's his name, Batman and Superman serials. But this one really connects. Every episode connects to the episode before. It's one long adventure. So it's a little bit ahead of its time because of that. And we'll see throughout other episodes in this first season that there's a lot that's really ahead of its time, and some things even show up in Star Trek. So forgive me if I bring up Star Trek a little bit. I also love that series very, very much. But yeah, let's get into it. The episode starts pretty much on a high note. It introduces our characters, which are Barbara and Ian, which are school teachers. And, oh, by the way, because I always forget to say this little YouTube cast, whatever you want to call it, it might have some minor spoilers, but this is a show from 1963. But I understand for some people that haven't watched it, they didn't want to get completely spoiled. I might spoil some things by mistake. I'll try not to. But I am going to run into some plot details of the episode. So just be aware of that. But it's still enjoyable even if you know what's going to happen. I mean, you just watch these for historical value, right? And so, yeah, we're introduced to Ian and Barbara, a couple school teachers who are in a car, and they're talking about their very strange student, Susan, and they're actually spying on her. They want to know what the hell is going on with Susan. They follow her into this trash dump where they run into the doctor, and it's all done so fast. It's incredible. And the doctor, he actually has a name. Here's a little bit of trivia for all you Doctor Who fans. It's Dr. Foreman. That's the name that he's given, but we realize a little bit later. Actually, Ian is the one that first says it. Like that, he's not. His real name is not Dr. Foreman. Doctor Who. We don't know who he is, so that's where we get the title sequence. And once they find him in the trash dumpster, they found the TARDIS there before they found him. This police box, and he tries to get in there, and they're watching. And here's a little side note. We don't have a sonic screwdriver yet, but the doctor does have a nifty little flashlight that he uses to unlock the TARDIS, which I thought was cool. These are like maybe reverse Easter eggs. I don't know, things that will eventually show up in the series. But yeah, he's trying to get in there, but he notices them, and they have a little bit of a scuffle is not the right word. A little bit of an argument outside the TARDIS, and eventually, they all end up inside because the teachers, they hear Susan inside, and we're introduced to the TARDIS for the first time. So there's so much historical stuff. So sorry if I'm giving you just a rundown of the episode, guys, but it's just so classic. I mean, this is it. And Hartnell, it's incredible how I immediately fell in love with him as a doctor. I watched the first season of Doctor Who maybe 3 years ago. I watched 3 seasons. I still have to finish. I think I need to finish the last bit of the third. I didn't get to his regeneration episode yet, so I still have a little bit more of Hartnell to go. But it's incredible how quickly I fell in love with him, and how he is the archetype for all the doctors. If you're a fan of the show, even of the new Doctor Who, the old Doctor Who, you get little bit of all the other doctors in him. He is the man. He is the man, and he shows that off right, from the first second that you see him. He's got charisma. He's a little bit of an angry doctor, not the most chummy of them all, but lovable anyway. And you might have heard a little bit of this. Here, let's play a little something here. Can you hear it? We all know what that is, right? Yeah, after the intro to the characters, we get the Doctor Who theme for the first time. Imagine 63, you're a little kid. I mean, this theme used to scare me when I was little. I'm not gonna lie. It's a freaky theme. Although, I was watching the theme from the 70s, but it's still, it changed without that much. Freaky theme. And it was written there by Ron Grainer, but it was performed by Dahlia Derbyshire. Is that how you pronounce her name? You have a little bit of Doctor Who in the smoke montage there. And it's just exciting when you hear this this theme. For me, it's like listening to the X-Files theme. It's just something so iconic, or the Star Trek theme. There's just these certain themes that are so iconic, and they take you to such a cool moment of your life. For me, it was just being a little kid, 9, 10, and running around the house with big scarves, and just, I think it was on Saturdays or Sundays around, 3 o'clock that they used to show Doctor Who, and then they changed it to the evening, and it just brings back so many cool memories. of sometimes staying up very late to watch Doctor Who, because I think they changed it to very late night at one point on PBS. So I love that, So the first, I mean, this is what the first 5-6 minutes of this episode are absolute classic Who. Anybody who's a fan of the series should take time to watch this and see how quickly. I mean, they move so quickly. There's very little exposition. They don't spend a lot of time dialoguing about who they are, who's this, why are they here. No, I mean, we find out obviously some important points. One, Susan is the Doctor's granddaughter, and they're both not from Earth. And forgive me if I am mistaken. I just watched this half an hour ago to prepare for this video blog, but I don't think they mentioned the name Gallifrey in their talks. They just say that they're not from here. They're both kind of not allowed to go back to their home planet, but they don't actually mention what it is. They're just kind of renegades out in the universe. So everything's classic. Everything's classic up to this point. And I'm so sorry, guys. For me, it's such a shame to have to start one of these Doctor Who reviews, kind of giving a so-so review, and this is what it is, because once they land on the planet where their first adventure is going to take place, the show just goes downhill. I mean, it's just a really, really, really paper-thin plot that just bores me to death. I remember first time I watched this episode, I fell asleep, and I fell asleep when I just watched it earlier this evening too. And I woke up later and I just rewatched the last 10 minutes just to make sure, okay, I think I got it as far as what the storyline is trying to tell. Because the first time, I could sort of remember it, but not really. But, yeah, it just goes downhill. By the way, another title for this episode, or some people refer to this episode sometimes as 100,000 BC, because that's where they travel to. They're on Earth, but 100,000 years in the past, So we got the time machine thing going. And by the way, Susan is the one who named the TARDIS the TARDIS. Time and relative dimensions in space. So she's like, well, TARDIS is the name I gave it. Shortened version, right? So, yeah, we started with Firestarter. Why? Because this episode is brought to you by fire. Fire! I wish I don't have that AC/DC voice, right? For those about to rock, fire! Yeah, and the whole episode centers around these cavemen who are vying for power, because one of them wants to. Here's from Wikipedia. Za, the leader of a primitive Paleolithic tribe, attempts to make fire. A young woman called Her warns him that if he fails to do so, the stranger called Cal will be made leader. And then, the Doctor gets kidnapped by Cal, who witnesses him lighting a match. And then Cal takes the Doctor back to the tribe and threatens to kill him if he does not make fire. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on about this fire. And the Doctor's like, I'm not making fire for you. Well, first he says he is if they let him go. And then he says he isn't if they don't let him go. And it's fire, fire, fire. Susan, Ian, and Barbara are outside the TARDIS. And they're like, where's the Doctor? They figure out where he is, They find him and try to save him, but they all get captured too, which you can see. Wait, I'm backwards here, right? So I got to point this way. It's right there, We're going clockwise. They get captured and put into this den of skulls or something. You can see Barbara's legs over there. Sorry, I couldn't get her into the screenshot. And then this old woman comes by, and she's like, you will not make fire. because fire will bring destruction to everyone here, and I will let you go, but you will not make fire. And she lets everybody go, and she gets killed for that, because the guy shows up and sees that oh no, first she gets slammed to the ground, which is pretty crazy, by, I think it's that guy Cal. It's confusing, guys. Yeah. So they escape. Yeah. So Cal runs after them with his woman and slams her to the ground. But I think Za comes after and kills. It's, like I said, there's going to be spoilers, but I'm not spoiling much in this story. They're running through the forest. They run into a jabalí, which is a wild boar. And then Barbara screams, which was kind of a refresher from listening to Susan scream, because Susan screams a lot, man. Well, I don't want to get into later episodes in the series yet, or in the season, but Susan, not my favorite character. She's alright. She's cute. Not my favorite. I really loved Ian and Barbara. But maybe, Susan's just supposed to be kind of that annoying teenager. She's very impetuous, very erratic, doesn't think before she acts kind of attitude, which is cool in a way. For a show in 1963 where, she's just this strong-willed female character, which is really, really cool, and so is Barbara. So again, the show is ahead of its time. Susan is definitely not someone who needs a man to save her, if you want to get into all that type of talk. So yeah, that part's cool, but not my favorite for sure. And it's mainly because of her screaming, man. Oh man, she could have been in some horror flicks as a scream queen. She's very, very good. And like I said, the story just kind of, whatever. It's super paper thin. The guys go after them to try to recapture them, and then the dude there gets attacked by, I don't know what. They don't really explain it. Leave it in the comments if I missed that. There's something out in the woods that killed the boar, jabalí, but then it tries to kill him. And I thought it was building up to something, but it doesn't really build up to anything. But Barbara's like, oh, we gotta help him. You can't just leave him there. And they try to make friends, and which I love is the doctor's like, hell no, we're trying to get the hell out of here. So this is a very different doctor from the very sweet doctor that we get in New Who. Because even in the ones that I watched more of, the fourth, fifth, little bit of the sixth Doctor, even those doctors have a little bit of a mean streak in them, compared to New Who. It's one thing that took me a while to get into New Who, because I'm like, this guy's way too nice. It's one reason I love Capaldi, because Capaldi, he's got that kind of old school attitude of like, yo, I'm the doctor, like I'm the shit, like I'm that good, like I'm not gonna waste my time with a lot of these little trivial things y'all worried about. Like, we're getting the hell out of here. But they convince him to help, and he does. Bring him some water, and they build a stretcher for him. And we do get a cool scene where the doctor kind of uses his, superior logic to find out who really murdered the old woman, because he was being blamed on Cal, but I believe it was really Za who did it. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. It's just a cool character moment, and speaking of Star Trek, Star Trek's famous for its prime directive, where they're like, we will not interfere with any culture. And here they're like, what? Prime directive? What the hell is that? I think Doctor Who has kind of taken that idea a little bit more in later years when they do time travel episodes. But here, they're like, we'll show you how to make fire. Just get us the. Try not to curse so much. I'm sorry. I have a potty mouth, guys. Grew up in New Jersey. We got potty mouths over there. Um, but I know some young kids watch Doctor Who, so I'll try to do my best. But if one slips out, forgive me. But we have, so they're like, man, we're going to make fire. Just get us the hell out of here, the heck out of here, and take us to the TARDIS, and we'll make you fire. And it's like, whoa, dude, you're like screwing up like all of human history, basically. I mean, this is caveman time, and you're showing them how to make fire. And it's like, yo, so we kind of get this idea that it was, how did man discover fire? It was the Doctor, man. Doctor Who gave humanity fire. It's badass in a way. I mean, really wasn't the Doctor because he wasn't beat, but it was Ian. He's the one. So that part, I guess, is kind of cool, but it's kind of screwing up the timeline a little bit. And yeah, so they get it, but then the guy's like, yeah, but we're going to keep you around anyway because we like you, and you make fire. So, so they're trapped again, they're captured again. They keep getting captured and escaping and captured and escaping this whole episode. And then eventually they do escape because of Barbara. Oh, and I'm sorry. Susan comes up with this ingenious idea of putting a torch, putting a skull over a torch, and that freaks everybody out, for whatever reason. And they take that moment of them being freaked out and run for it. So that's another one, reverse Easter egg. I mean, if you're used to watching, the new series and then you go back and watch some of the classic stuff, is that, running was definitely the optimal plan most of the time. Not a lot of fighting in the Doctor. Yeah, we don't get any karate chops until later. We do get karate chops later. We do get a more James Bondish sort of Doctor that's going to come up, and hopefully we'll get there, maybe next year. Guys, it's going to take a long time to review. There's more than 700 episodes, but we'll get through it. I hope you enjoy them, and I hope you have fun watching them. If you do watch a few of these, they are fun. I mean, there's some that are, you can kind of skip, but others that are definitely worth it. Definitely worth it if you can put your mindset into that 1960s, very cheap sets, minimum special effects. But guess what? To compensate for all that, the stories were great. These stories, hold up. The special effects definitely don't, but the stories do. Mine is this episode, which is a shame, especially since it's the pilot episode, the very first one, but not my favorite. It does end on a cliffhanger, which, like I said, it's kind of ahead of its time in the sense that it's giving us like a season-long story, and each episode connects to the next. They are not standalone episodes. And that's cool. I think that's so amazing for a show from 1963 to have that. So give me just 1 second here, guys, to just take a look at something. Yeah, it premiered on the 23rd of November on BBC TV and went through to the 14th of December. But anyway, that's it. That's it. We have a little bit of the Unearthly Child theme right there in the TARDIS. Let me see if I can get us can we get a little outro music? A little bit more Doctor Who music. Great theme. So guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the page. This is a labor of love. It's gonna take a long time to do, but maybe I can guide you through some of Doctor Who. And maybe you can watch the video and say, "Hey, I want to check that episode out," or maybe you can watch the video and say, "Wow, that sounded like it was really bad. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it through this whole episode." Like I said, this episode I give a 3 out of 5 stars. Which, by the way, I should have said this at the beginning. Check out brazusa.wordpress.com. Brazusa, that's Brazusa. I'm going to write it there on the screen somewhere so you can reference it. That's my blog, and that's where I have a lot of movie reviews, just my life in general. I live in Brazil right now, which I think, yeah, you can see a little Brazilian flag right there. And yeah, this is what I do for fun because I'm such a fun and exciting guy. But like I said, you can use these as sort of a guide, and you can try to find these episodes. I find them online, guys. Because I'm down here in South America, it's hard to get a hold of like official BBC DVD stuff. So yeah, I kind of just have to find these episodes one way or another. But they're out there, so try to look for them. And, if you're a Doctor Who fan and you've never seen any of the classic stuff, try to watch at least one episode from each Doctor. And I will give you a little preview of the next episode. It's a 5-star episode. It's really damn good. And it introduces some really classic Doctor Who stuff. But I'm not going to say too much. I'm trying to keep my mouth shut. But that's it for now, guys. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good night.